to the first live edition of Sports is Not a Game, Sports is Not All Business, presented by the African American Athlete Radio Talk Show, hosted by Ricky Hampton and Mr. Michael Robinson. As I said, my name is Robert T. Green. I'm also formerly known as a Players Rep, which is here to educate, empower, protect the athletes and the family's best interests. Join us on Wednesdays live at 6 p.m. to 7, where it's going to be interactive, talking about things that go on in the sports business to educate the athlete and the family, because the fact of the matter is 2018. A lot of the principles and a lot of the thought process that go towards what these kids and these parents make decisions on, but not just kids and parents, but also from the pro athletes through their transition, is not what it is today. As I say, again, sports is not a game, it's all business. A lot of times you guys here trust the process. What we're going to do here on this show, interactively speaking, is give you the fact of the matter information to make sure that you know what the process is, so you can actually trust it in the right scenario. So just to get a couple of formalities out the way, as I said before, I'm Robert T. Green. My company is called Pre-Post Game. If you look at the header, it says obviously where I come from, what I do. Again, sports business management advisory firm, also transition succession planning for the athletes and families at every level, whether it's high school, college, pros, transition into retirement. We provide services for you to make sure that you get to where you need to be. And also for the people that's in the industry, we try to help those that are good in the industry become better. And for those that aren't doing right by the player, we also help to expose those so the same kids don't get caught up in the same scenario. So now with that out the way, I think we have a pretty good topic tonight. Again, if you have questions or comments, please type them in. I'll try to answer them, as quickly as I possibly can as I go through. But, recently we have the NCAA tournament that's going on, and obviously you got the NFL draft that's coming up in April 25th to 28th in Dallas, Texas. And one of the main things that's going on with a lot of players, as we just recently passed the last bowl season, we're talking about, insurance, loss of value, and permanent disability. What exactly is that? How do you protect yourself from that? How do you qualify for that? Who's the people you need to know, and particularly what schools? What's going on? How you doing, Ricky? Thank you for joining in. So hopefully, like I said, the live stream is going well. If you can let me know and just give me a thumbs up so I know that everything is streaming correctly. So interactively speaking, that's Mr. Hampton right now. He's watching from location, but he'll be on probably sometime later or, next week. So with that being said, the loss of value policy. You guys may remember a guy named Leonard Fournette a couple years ago from LSU, a running back, top 10 pick. He was actually drafted number 4 for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 2017 draft. Mr. Fournette took out 2 $10 million policies. One was $10 million for loss of value, which is also known as LOV. The other one was taking out $10 million for permanent disability. And what that means, particularly from an athlete standpoint, is that if you get injured and you can no longer play professionally, then that allows you to qualify for that insurance to collect on your permanent disability. So again, what does a $10 million policy normally run someone at this level? Again, those type of policies run between $50,000 to $80,000. And like I said, so if you think about it, for one $10 million policy for Mr. Fournette is $80,000, and the second $10 million policy is another $80,000. So your question probably is, well, if he gets injured, does he collect all of that money? How does this actually work? So that's what I'm here to do, try to explain these things to you guys. Loss of value means where you are actually projected to go in the draft. You have a lot of different scouting sites and a lot of people that basically go do their business of scouting to project where a kid may or may not be drafted. There's one insurance carrier that oversees everyone. It's called Lloyd's of London. Lloyd's of London sets the threshold. The threshold means like the highest that he could possibly get drafted at. So again, for example, if Leonard Fournette is projected to be the number 1 pick overall, his threshold would allow him to get the max of what that actual insurance policy would pay out. For the National Football League players today in 2018, going into the number 1 pick overall next year, is going to get paid out pretty much about $36 million over the first 4 years with a 5th-year team option. So for example, so now if Mr. Fournette is projected with that threshold to be the first pick overall, and he got injured in college for whatever reason, and he fell outside of that first round or past the second round, past the third round, the lower he go, the more insurance he would get in return from that actual policy. But it's also a percentage. So again, do not think that, if some of these guys that are told that, if you get this insurance policy, now you can come back, play another year. The fact of the matter is it's a really, really minute small portion if you was to get injured playing in college. And so if you projected and you know you're locked to be a #1 pick, at the end of the day, you forego that opportunity to make that $36 million, and you get injured, you might be looking at $5 or $6 million tops. So once again, making decisions that's uninformed and not business oriented at this level, it's a situation that literally young kids, in particular African-American kids at this level, can't afford to actually continue to make. If you talk about education, which NCAA claims it portrays to be, you and I both know that as an 18-year-old, I'm a lot more immature than I would be as a 24 and 25-year-old. I've came up with a reason, a solution a long time ago. If it's really about education, then you could pay the 18-year-old, the 19-year-old, the 20-year-old football player when he's in his prime, and then literally whatever money he makes, if he wants that education when he can no longer play, even if he doesn't make it to the National Football League, he can return when he's 24, 25. He's going to be a lot more in tune to what his books are. He's going to be a lot more understanding of what life looks like. He's really going to understand that I can no longer play sports, so now I'm following up what I need to do to get this education. But the NCAA is not subscribing to that, once again, because it can't be about education. Again, sports is not a game. Sports is all business. So going back to the actual permanent disability piece. So again, the only way Mr. Fournette with that $10 million policy would collect off of that is he can no longer play football again. Now that's the key. Now in 2013, the NCAA created a fund, which is pretty much put in $73 million called the Student Athletic Fund. And with that Student Athletic Fund, what that does is allow the schools, universities, to basically pay for certain things that benefit the student athlete that normally they wouldn't be able to get otherwise. But because of so much money is being generated revenue wise based off of these kids and what they do, how they play games, win championships, get drafted, the list goes on and on and on and on. The fact of the matter is, like, I got to really think about how in the world at this point that with all that money being generated, that the NCAA, when they pay for a kid's insurance, they only want to cover him for permanent disability. Permanent disability means he's more than likely going to play again. So what are you really doing? So when a kid sit down and a parent sit down, they don't understand what insurance is. Oh yeah, we're going to give you $3 million of permanent disability insurance, PTD. First thing you're saying is, well, thank you very much. But they don't realize really what that means. That means your kid literally has to be taken off of the stretcher. And at the end of the day, if he is taken off of the stretcher and he gets seriously injured, that $2 million is absolutely nothing. It's going to cost his medical bills just to stay relevant and to get healthy. So once again, it's more about the loss of value. And this is where it comes about making decisions when you go to college, and about how we talk about college is a business, and a scholarship and the NLI, National Letter of Intent, is an open scholarship, is an open contract. And parents and kids have to become more educated to understand that you are a pro the moment somebody's willing to pay money to watch you play. And what do I mean by that? I mean, literally, if someone is talking to you about going to school A, B, C, or D, why are they basically advocating for that school? You got to understand in 2018 sports, it's not about just the uniform that they wear or your alumni. It's about, hey, if I can convince this kid from my neighborhood, from my school, from my church to go to this school, there's a monetary value compensation for me. That's where at the end of the day, parents and kids got to recognize that you are a business. And if you don't have the right mind frame and business mentality, people will be able to take advantage of you and manipulate your thought process all day long. So great question, Ricky. What if a family can't pay insurance? That's the point. Most families that come from certain areas can't pay insurance. So the fact of the matter is that with this program, athletes and their families advocate through the universities, which again, a kid that's 20, 19, 18 could not represent themselves to the university, a multi-billionaire university. So again, what they talk about is that now they're trying to make it like where insurance is one size fit all, which is not. Because at the end of the day, everybody knows in this country, if I wanted to get Allstate, Geico, Farmers, whatever it may be from there, it's a personal decision to me. However, if all of a sudden you're willing to compensate or pay for that insurance for me, but all of a sudden I decide to go to the university or go to the insurance policy or another company that you don't like, now you tell me that you're not going to pay for it. That's called coercion. That's called coercion, which is illegal. There's a lot of things that's going on like that that parents are not aware of and these kids aren't aware of. So at the end of the day, That's the only two choices. You can actually go to a private bank. There's a few of them out there. So again, for your personal needs and if you have a business concern or question, you can reach out to us at prepostgame.com. We have consultation times on our actual website where at the end of the day, if you're one of those, athletes that qualify for this insurance, because again, let me backtrack. You must qualify, as I said earlier, through the Lloyd's of London for the threshold. So based off your rankings and your aptitude of basically be able to play professional, that's where you qualify that from that insurance. Basic insurance, if a kid gets injured playing the game, they're going to take care of you on that field as much as they possibly can right from that standpoint. Again, not to go too far back, but you also got to be aware before going to college when it comes to insurance. If you get injured in high school, you get injured on an AAU tournament or a showcase tournament, and all of a sudden now you go into college and then you become that kid that's actually looking towards becoming a professional athlete, it's very, very important for you and your parents to understand you cannot lie on the insurance form. If you have a pre-existing injury, your knee, you tore your ACL, your ACL in your knee, or you have an AC joint sprain on your shoulder, and you don't chart that down, then all of a sudden now, as you go towards college and further, and all of a sudden you get injured, you want that insurance to pay that claim, they're going to find those records. And when they find those records, they're going to deny your claim. And a lot of people are going to want to turn around and sue the actual university or sue the person that's actually providing the insurance company, but you have no case. You have no case, because at the end of the day, you're the one that put your signature on the pen or the paper. So once again, we know that there are coaches that will tell players, a university tell players that you don't want to get an MRI. We just took an X-ray, because if you get an MRI, the NFL is going to find it. But I'm here to tell you guys, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, it is their job to find these things. So if you have an injury, it's in your best interest to be honest and upfront about it. And it's also in your best interest to take care of it as soon as possible. You injure yourself, highly rated kid as a high school player, like I said again, and you about to go to school as a freshman, and you got a choice to either play as a freshman because you just high recruit and the team wants to put you out there, or you have the choice to get reconstructive surgery on their dime. Get the surgery. Get the surgery. Now, you talk about doctors. Are they going to do what's best for you? Our advice to you guys as a sports business management, always get a second opinion, always, especially when it comes to injury to your body. Because at the end of the day, there's some cases that we're looking at right now where you tell me that I could play and I don't need, orthopedic surgery or full surgery. And then 2 years from now, when I'm hoping to go towards the pros, but I can re-injure myself, you have no claim again. The school is going to say, well, you didn't ask for the surgery. You had a choice. Now, again, the choice was you being a kid who wanted to be a part of a team, and it used that gladiator mentality to push you forward to make sure you feel like, you know what, you're part of the team. But the fact of the matter is, sports is a short-lived window, especially football. I'm the biggest proponent about paying the player simply is this, because at the end of the day, and just hear me out, for all the highly rated athletes and non-highly rated athletes in football that literally play, let's say, 3 years of youth football, then they play another, 2 or 3 years of varsity. That's 7 years right now without no major injury. It's still a collision sport. You're still developing, but your body's still getting beat up. Now you go to a university where they now tell you again, you could play another 3 to 4 years. So now that puts you at about 9 to 10. Then the way the NFL is set up with the rookie wage scale, you now have to play another 4 to 5 years to really be able to take care of your family. But remember back when you was running around at the Nike Rivals camp or the Under Armour All-American camp, and you were telling everybody the next 3 or 4 years you can take your talents too, and you were trusting the process, and you're going to be a pro athlete. Everybody around you was saying that. Again, in the National Football League, the average career is 2.9 years. So my biggest concern is like, hold on, if I know average career is 2.9 years in pro football, why is it the NCAA going out their way to keep these kids for a minimum of 3 in the best part of their life? It makes no sense. Sports is not a game. It's all business. And so stay on topic, but at the same time, coming into next week, we're going to talk about some of the new football leagues that basically are now going to allow some of these athletes to play without going to the NCAA. My biggest proponent in telling all families and athletes is that literally you need character development and business services. If you're pushing towards becoming a professional athlete, you have to understand the business that you're going in to be sustainable in it. I mean, look what's going on today, every other day. Young man from Buffalo just try to run out the window. It's a lot going on and not going on in the mind that developed through that time at the NCAA that was overshadowed. It don't have to be that way. Again, sports is not a game. It's all business. So what that means is that every kid that's right now going to all these different camps and all these different evaluation calendars, I want you guys to understand something. When you there, if you're the best player there in 2018 with those peers, you're going to be the same best player in 2019, 2020, and 2021. So as many people that's going to come out of nowhere all of a sudden now is going to take claim or want to take credit for your talent and take credit for your development. I always want to remember, like, your parents are the one that held you down. They're the ones paying for you to go all over the world right now to basically give yourself an opportunity. Just remember that once you sign that contract, that those parents, your parents, are still your parents. The school does not own you. You own you. You don't answer to the school. You answer to yourself first. At the end of the day, your time at that school is going to be short-lived. Your parents are still going to be there. Your life must still go on. That's why we say we're more than an athlete. And again, to tie that up when it comes to the insurance piece, once again, some of these schools are now, and again, we're going to, put out a blog or put out some information soon about some of these schools that literally are, I don't want to say the term extorting, but it's close to it. Some of these kids, for example, with the loss of value policy, when you tell a parent that, okay, well, we got a lot of kids that basically we use this money from insurance purposes. Once again, it's a threshold. Only Lloyd's in London can basically evaluate you through that threshold. Only is those kids that are basically projected to be pros that actually generate revenue for the school qualifies for that insurance. So when you tell a parent now that, hey, well, we got 600 kids that we got to pay insurance out or use this money for, you didn't tell that parent, that kid, that when you kept going into their house or kept recruiting them, you didn't say, hey, well, you know what? We here, but we got 600 other kids too to try to recruit and bring here. Sports is not a game. Sports is all business. Question: what is the college responsibility to the senior who gets injured in the final game of his career? Does it go beyond graduation? No. Again, the injury that you sustained in your actual college career at that time, your insurance policy will cover that from there. Like I said, you have your regular insurance policy through the school. Then you actually have ones that you can get that you either pay for yourself or the school actually pays for, and then actually literally it covers you. With those policies, however, what a lot of kids don't understand, with those policies, you can't do things like go skateboard. If you're a football player, you can't go and be doing a practice and a dunk contest on your social media account, and you can't be sitting there basically playing duck hunt or BB guns. You get shot in the eye. If you do that, you're going to have your policy denied too, and the school is going to tell you that. So once again, once you get insurance at that level, you got to basically treat your body, which it is, as a business, and make sure you don't put yourself in a situation where you can't collect on what it is that you deserve. So like I said, but to me, again, it's a personal decision. Insurance is personal. And one of the things why we're talking about this is because if you want to make a personal decision, in that, if a kid goes and a parent calls the school and says, I want to find out what it is that the insurance policy entails and how does it work, that doesn't mean the university picks up the phone and calls their regular representation and now tells the kid to basically talk to this guy. That's an insurance broker. You can't tell a kid or family who to work with. It is your God-given right to choose your own provider, to choose your Allstate, to choose your Geico, to choose your Farmers. You can't do it, but they've been doing it. But like I said, again, we're doing things like this to educate and empower and protect your best interests in that. And again, if you find yourself in the same scenario, once again, contact us at prepostgame.com. There's a lot of great injury insurance lawyers out there that would love to know what's going on so they can basically advocate for your best interests. I know one in mind, literally, that he doesn't basically receive compensation unless you do. So again, this information is what you need to do to basically protect yourself. What would I advise a top level athlete to seek insurance as he head to college? Why don't colleges better explain insurance to kids? Well, this is the deal. Like anything else, if this was about education, they wouldn't ask a kid to sign a letter of intent or sign a college scholarship from day one. We are advocating. We actually can help put in place your own contract with that actual institution prior to you going to school. Because we know the NCAA provides its actual policy, the end of the day, why aren't you basically taking advantage of, well, the kid and the family of basically putting your protections to protect yourself at this level? If you have dreams or aspirations of becoming a pro athlete, you don't wait till 4 months before you have a chance to become pro to say, I want to hire an agent. And then now you think you figured it out. That's the worst case scenario. That doesn't really work that way. The fact of the matter is that between the Under Armour games and the McDonald All-American games in basketball, it's a great percentage. Over 50% of players that you see at these games get injured, and a lot of them never even finish school. A lot of them are out of school after the first semester. That's one of the numbers that nobody reports. We actually working on that to put that piece out there to show you. And again, that exact phrase, for the next 3 to 4 years, I'm taking my talents. And pretty much right after that first semester, that first season, that kid gets injured, career ending, season ending. All of a sudden, he's pushed aside, and then they move on to the next kid they recruit in the next year. So, again, they don't explain it to them because, again, it's an individual-based decision. It's not really their responsibility. They don't want to explain it to you because, once again, if from an insurance standpoint, if they don't have to pay out on claims and policies, it's better for their business, not yours as the athlete or the family. But once again, this institutionalization thought process starts from day one. You remember, every kid that's growing up, and every parent right now is going to take their kid to their first competitive game. Before they step on that court or that field or that rink or on that diamond, you're going to sign a document that says, you know what? Yes, I am selling popcorn over here. Yes, I am selling a ticket to this game. Yes, I'm selling a pamphlet. Yes, your kid is going to sign autographs, but then your autograph is going to say, hey, if this kid gets hurt on their field, you're going to be responsible for paying for them, even though you're making money for them. But you never start to think about, why am I doing that? Because that field is already insured. So not only is that field insured, but now you basically still taking on a responsibility because your kid want to play the game. You want to have fun. But once again, sports is not a game. Sports is all business in 2018. And for the highly rated athletes, this process, this business, without the players, none of this exists. Robert T. Green, the players rep, pre-post game doesn't exist without players to service. NBA TV, the March Madness, the tournament. I just said a couple days ago, this is the worst March Madness ever, because Cinderella is a gang. It's too many Cinderellas. The NCAA didn't buy in for that. All those teams like North Carolina or Arizona that have huge fan bases that follow and travel, they was expecting at least 2 to 3 games. They had hotels and extension stays and restaurants and everything else that was going on. But now when you got teams like, Loyola, Chicago, and Maryland, Baltimore County winning, they don't have a fan base like that. That just threw everything off. They was looking to collect at least close to 800 million. They go get up there, but at the same time, that's not what they was doing this for. One Cinderella. But let's also talk about the fact that those Cinderella teams with those kids, if you win 1 or 2, 3 games at the max, because really Cinderella has never really won a championship. If you go back to George Mason and things like that some years ago, okay, great. But you guys don't even remember those kids' names. But the fact of the matter is, those kids that are basically creating that one shining moment, the fact of the matter is that coach, they just made money for that coach because he is gone. He's gone. Leave them right where they are. And based off those rules, those kids got to stay, but he's allowed to go. Sports is not a game. Sports is all business. So now back to the insurance piece. So you guys understand again, there's only 4 people that provide loss of value coverage. 4. Again, 4 of them. I'm not going to name them directly, but I'll just say this. 1 is the only one that's paid out loss of value. So again, you got guys that such as Jalen Smith for the Dallas Cowboys. He got injured. He played in the Fiesta Bowl versus Ohio State a couple years ago. Notre Dame did not pay for Mr. Jalen Smith's insurance policy. Mr. Jalen Smith paid for his insurance policy. What it means to fall from a projected top 5 pick, which Jalen Smith was, to the second round is a $20 million loss. What athletes and parents need to understand, you can never recoup money that you lose. So everything that you do on and off the field matters. As you continue to progress, colleges do that whole recruiting piece. Oh, we love you. We love you. We want to give you hugs to sign your name. The NFL, the NBA is different. As you ascend and go further, they're looking to find ways to not pay you. Again, with the assistance of the agents and other people in the industry, players union, who turn around and allow people to sign 6-year deals knowing they're going to get cut in 2. But once again, that's where the education starts. NCAA doesn't have none of these top-rated athletes that literally they don't take any personal finance, accounting, money management, none of the above. They got health, exercise, science. I seen one class the other day. I think it was human. I don't know what's it called. University leadership studies. What is that? What is that? Mr. Hampton says, my daughter played ball at Hampton University. In her class of 8 incoming freshmen, only 2 of the class made it to graduation. Injuries, transfer, grads played a role in the other 6. Is that typical to have? And so if you make it to graduation, no, it actually is typical. That's what actually happens. The fact of the matter is that's why in college, when you talk about the pros, we talking football, the pro roster may start off in camp at 80, but again, it quickly dwindles down. I'm sorry, 90, and it quickly dwindles down to like 53. And then you have 46 that play, and now they actually added another, 1 or 2 for the practice squad. The reason why, because football, in all sports, but football in particular, is a dangerous, brutal sport. So the fact of the matter is in college, they got about 100 players out there. Because once again, those that get injured, you heard the phrase, the next man up. But it's unacceptable because at the end of the day, every one of those kids and every one of those parents have the same belief when they come to that school that they got the same dream, whether it's to get the education, get a degree, to basically make it to the pro level, to make their parents proud. But again, more than 75% of those people that go through those actual programs end up injured, transferred, don't get their degree, not the one they was looking for, or worse. Like I said, there's a lot of times when kids get on campus and they're not even been taught how to transition from where they came from to where they at now. A lot of kids make decisions coming from, for example, if I'm a northern kid from New Jersey, but I want to go and play a game or play ball in, say, Alabama, the culture is different there. You might say something to me in Alabama that I wasn't prepared for because I wasn't prepared. And all of a sudden now I got to address that, which can put me in a lot of trouble. Again, instead of talking about gloves and housing and what else, like TVs and national championships, at the end of the day, none of that stuff pay these kids bills. None of it at all. But at the same time, this is what's being preached and harped upon. In 2018, I always hear parents say to me, like, well, nobody told them. At the end of the day, you got to understand technology, computers, people like myself, companies like myself, advocates for athletes, they're everywhere. And again, what I share with people is that, there's 3 things. If I can leave anything with anybody, 3 things that I tell everybody in this business, because it's not what you think it is. If someone is talking to you, they need to educate you. That means it's something that you didn't know, you didn't understand. And then when they educate you, then you want to listen more. The second thing is empowerment. Are they teaching me about something that I may need them for a certain amount of time, but now I'm going to be empowered to do things that's going to put me and my family and my kid in the best situation possible. And the last thing is protection. If you get into the sports business at any level, as you tend to ascend, and these people that are around you not basically setting you up for understanding what can go into this business, you need to walk the other way because they're part of the problem. And at the end of the day, this is what we created this company for. This is why the Players Rep was born. I lived this life. I've been through it. A couple of days ago, I posted something about, and you can check it out at the Robert T. Green or the Players Rep 1, about the real life of what a professional student athlete is. But like I said earlier, if somebody's paying money to watch you play, even though you're not being compensated, you are a professional. You're a professional because you're being watched. You're being held at a certain standard. You're going to be penalized. You're going to be manipulated. You're going to be exploited. And you're going to be told everything you want to hear, not what you need to know. That is what being a pro is. It doesn't mean you got to be getting a check to be a pro. But that's the point. How you doing, Mr. Strickland? So again, I was talking about the actual the four different insurance providers. So again, no matter what, if you want permanent disability, loss of value insurance, no matter what a university says, at the end of the day, when they present something to you, you can ask a simple question: how many from this actual insurance provider ever paid out a claim? If they tell you something different than one, like I said, that one, you can call us at prepostgame.com. We'll explain it to you. And educate and empower protects you. Then they're lying. However, there's a lot of brokers. And what a broker is pertaining to the NCAA and the insurance providers that literally by law. The NCAA is not able to or tell you that, hey, you need to take this insurance and that insurance unless that person actually has an insurance license. That's where these kids and these parents are getting caught up, because they're telling kids that, hey, coach such and such is going to determine your threshold, and then we're going to decide how much we're willing to pay, even though that kid is basically the only kid on that roster is worth draft eligible. And now, again, as they turn around and wait and drag their feet, if that kid was to get injured or something like that, then they're going to say, oh, sorry, next man up. Sports is not a game. Sports is all business. Parents, advocates of athletes, I implore you, take your career seriously. I'm speaking about injuries today and insurance, because at the end of the day, everybody's not going to qualify for the insurance. The kids we're talking about, the Jalen Smiths of the world, the Leonard Fournettes of the world, and again, a couple kids that's coming out now. As you mentioned, like last year, you talk about how the bowl games have been impacted, where these kids aren't going to play bowl games because of them not getting the insurance paid for. That's the point. People are getting on these kids. Why are they not playing in the bowl games? Go back and ask the actual NCAA and the schools and the coaches why. This is what's leading to. This is why Alabama now has a seventh ranked recruiting class. This is why Michigan has dropped down to the 21st ranked recruiting class. This is why LSU and the other powers of the SEC has dropped, because what's going on now, parents and players are becoming educated and smarter about their own business. If you go back to Leonard Fournette's last year, his junior year, how much did he play? Did he play a lot? Did he play 12, 13 games? Did he play a bowl game? No. He barely played. He's a running back, where the NFL devalues running back from talent and from a pay. Look no further than Le'Veon Bell. Leonard Fournette and his family had to make a business decision. LSU, are you paying for my insurance? LSU, you want me to take 240 more hits to my head for free so you can give me a hat and t-shirt and you can collect millions on your bowl game and your conference bonuses? So now you're saying, well, okay, they're going to be mad at Leonard Fournette. They were so mad at Leonard Fournette for not playing in that bowl game, for not playing his whole senior year, for the most part, his junior year, that they drafted him as a number 4 running back, healthy, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sports is not a game. It's all business. Oh. How many kids do you think they ever know? How many kids do you think even know to ask that question? Well, exactly. So, no. And why do hockey players and baseball players don't have to? I mean, they have different rules. That's a great question. The fact of the matter is, if you talk in education, it shouldn't be separate. But the fact of the matter is, sports such as football and basketball generate all the revenue. And also, we talk about how these kids get recruited and where they come from. Predominantly, hockey players and baseball players are Caucasian. We know that. And they also come from better, well-off upbringing as far as the school and the revenue that they already have in their pocket. A lot of these kids that are great athletes that basically are coming from certain areas where, just to be honest, a lot of their parents or their grandmothers or whatever just trying to get them to school, they may have a second and third grade education. You got, guys now that we talk about what sports trafficking is, about the runner. We'll cover that down the road, about these people all of a sudden know them grandmom can't afford dinner, but this guy will show up all of a sudden and buy a pair of sneakers or buy a dinner or pay rent. And all of a sudden the kid's looking at the guy like he's his father or something like that. Now, after that, now these kids basically get pushed towards the school saying you have to do this, you have to do that, not ever asking any questions, because at the end of the day, he's now been given an opportunity to feel better about himself than he did once before. And once that person gets a hold of the actual kid and their psyche and their mindset, it's hard to break loose from that. Obviously, what's going on with the FBI investigations in basketball. Speaking of which, have you not noticed that with all the FBI investigations and the NCAA bluster about what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, you've never seen a kid not play as of yet. You won't. I can look forward to taking a whole show one day on this podcast and talk about what I, as a CEO of a company, how my senior year was, which didn't involve any classes, which involved a bowl game, which involved me playing 13 straight games, and which involved me speaking directly to the athletic director and the head coach, explaining my issue with them not having the classes that I was supposed to have to graduate, and also come to find out later on that my scholarship in essence was an actual loan. That's another topic. It's a long story. Again, the players rep is here for a reason. So again, for insurance purposes, for the highly rated athletes, for the athletes that's basically highly rated coming through high school, going to college, when you make a decision, is a very, very important question that when you sit down with those coaches, will you pay for my loss of value insurance? How much so? And if you pay for it, how much are you going to pay? I want to know that first. I don't want to see your lounge. I don't want to see your nap room. I don't want to see the people that you're paying to basically sit up and chant my name. I want to know when I come here to play for you and I get hurt, you're going to take care of me the way I'm coming to try to take care of you. It's business. It's a two-way street. Regarding that free education, as I said before, if it was really free and about education, an 18-year-old kid is more than likely to be more educated and more prepared to be educated in his 20s than he ever is going to be at 18, 19, 20. But these people are making millions of dollars to continue to make dumb decisions. And absolutely, talk about Miles Bridges from Michigan State, who's also now foregoing his senior year to go to the NBA. The NCAA did that actual investigation, and they said they had to pay back $40. $40. Now, mind you, what that kid brings in from ticket sales and what he does from a community standpoint to help, generate more recruits and help bring more notoriety to that actual school, for the NCAA to stick their nose up and say this person got to pay back $40 when you have runners and